Wat het Perot, Bill Clinton en George Bush gemeen, behalwe Dinsdag se verkiesing? Larry King live, dis wat, soos omtrent elke ander iemand wat ooit iets was of probeer word het.
Larry King, actually Larry Zeiger, now 58 and from Washington, D.C., came from Brooklyn, New York, originally without a university degree. His interview show on CNN the past 7 years and his late-night radio show the past 15 are heard by a mere 46 million people every night.
En oor die afgelope paar jaar het 'n miljoene wat Suid-Afrikaners deel geword van daardie internasionale gehoor. Wallace van 60 Minutes het gaan kennis maak met die man wat 'n instelling geword het.
Look what happens when he gets off the plane in the heartland of America, Wichita, Kansas.
This can't be a welcoming committee.
And look what happens when people get close to him.
It's the biggest pleasure of my life to be able to meet you and see you live.
Listen, would you take a picture of me and let my husband get it? So much. I will love you to death.
Well, our camera crews have followed you around. People say, there's Larry King, there's Larry King. I shouldn't use the word star. Big deal? Different?
Kooky, a little scary. You know, Mike, I really believe this. No baloney. I'm a guy who asks questions. I'm a guy who asks questions. That's all. I'm a guy who's curious, and these things have happened to me
okay,
from it.
But there are a lot of guys...
But I didn't expect to be a star.
Of course you didn't expect to be a star. But the nightly news is out, and Larry King is in. Why? What happened in this political year of 1992 to make people suddenly say, did you watch Larry King last night?
Perot happened. The 15th caller has now said, Mr. Perot, I admire you a great deal. There's a twinkle in his eye. I see the twinkle. And something led me to say...
By the way, is there any scenario in which you would run for president? Can you give me a scenario in which you'd say, okay, I'm in?
If you're that serious, you, the people, are that serious, you register me in 50 states.
And there it was, back on February 20th, Perot told King that he was in the race.
We maybe had 3 million viewers that night, but by the time the next day wrote about it, and the next day, and then he came back, and then he goes on other shows, and he mentioned our show, and then it spun off, and this is a spin-off business, and by the time it reached the climax, probably 80 million people have now said, I saw that interview with Perot.
So Perot's in your will? Tell me something.
Yeah, maybe. I'm in his, too.
Larry King is the man the candidates want to talk to, for they've discovered what movie stars already knew, that Larry King Live is an unedited hour with this witty, chummy interviewer who frequently asks simple questions others wish they'd thought of. Bottom line, he makes his guests comfortable. Comfortable enough for an anti-abortion vice president to talk about his daughter and abortion.
What if your daughter grew up, had a problem, came to you with the problem all fathers fear? How would you deal with it?
Obviously, I would counsel her and talk to her and support her on whatever decision she made.
And if the decision was abortion, you'd support her as a parent?
I'd support my daughter.
News is made on Larry King Live, and the candidates know it. Clinton and Gore took him on their bus tour.
Here we go. We're in the open.
George Bush said yes to 2 interviews. Larry got in the White House. We didn't. And Perot? Well, he just keeps coming back for more.
New York City for Perot. Hello.
Hello, Larry.
Yep.
Mike Wallace.
What is it that you get on the Larry King show, Mr. Perot, that you don't get on Face the Nation or Meet the Press or the Brinkley Show? Is it the softballs that my friend Larry throws at you?
No,
Mike.
Wait a minute. I've got missing teeth for being on the show with Larry. This nose wasn't broken until I met Larry. But here, let me tell you what we get. We get to talk to the American people. I just adore it.
You're a patsy.
Oh,
That's the rap.
Yeah, I know.
I don't think you're a patsy. You get information your way, I get information my way. But the rap on King is that he's a patsy. He will never ask a hard question.
I'm Larry. I'm Larry of the corner. Honest to God, that's the way I feel. That's in me. I never got Brooklyn out of me. It's still in me. And when we were on the corner, I was the kind of kid who used to say, why do you want to ride a bus? Why do you want to drive the bus?
But wait a second. Why do you want to drive a bus? Why do you put your hand in the coin box and take out 1 out of every 3 quarters?
Now, you would ask
Mr.
it
Bus
that
Driver?
way, and I would say, aren't there temptations as a bus driver to take coins out?
And he would say, temptations? No. And you would say, oh, and go on to the next one.
No, I would say, you mean there's no temptation to ever lead down?
Yeah,
but
I have temptations.
What I would not do, because it's not my style, is say, you've taken quarters. I've gotten confrontive, sometimes with racists, which really gnaw at me. But basically, my style is one of utter, it's almost, I don't want to say naivety. I'm curious. I want to know why.
Where are you staying? Where are we at?
What he hears, what he reads, what he knows, Larry says, is his only preparation for his interviews. Blue cards from his staff suggest issues and topics, but no questions. Executive producer Tammy Haddad whispers last-minute notes in his ear before each broadcast.
The fact that Bush said today,
No more. He said
tax
it.
increases.
Definitely. I'll never do it again.
Tammy has been with him for 12 years. She's his alter ego.
Who will be giving me cities?
I will give you cities. I'm the only person you talk to. I will give you time.
I don't really need a floor manager.
Okay. Okay, we're going to have a floor manager. I've got it all taken care of. Seriously.
Larry's cool. Tammy is the effective maniac in charge.
We are not doing it now.
We're not doing it now.
Get your blue lights ready, Jer.
A little more.
Let me see the two-shot, please. And
A little more.
Richard.
She does it all, doesn't she?
He's on the air, radio and television, 46 hours a week.
With repeats and one thing and another.
Yeah, with repeats. Yeah. Oh, yeah. 46 hours.
You're obviously underpaid.
Grossly.
In the area of $2 or $3 million, right?
Make a lot of money.
It's hard to remember that this guy had hit rock bottom 20 years ago in Miami.
There were 4 very lean years.
They were very lean years.
What happened?
My ego lost control of me, and I was making $60,000 a year and living like I was making 120.
Yeah.
And I was very well known in Miami, and I was excited by being well known. I was really captured by it.
One of the things that didn't excite him about being well known was an indictment for grand larceny 20 years ago on charges he pocketed $5,000 he had been given to pass on to an individual looking into the Kennedy assassination.
So you got into money trouble?
The sum and substance was that $5,000 was never passed on. I had told him I was going to use it to pay taxes. He
got off on a technicality, but he was broke. He'd lost his broadcasting jobs, and by 1979, he had to declare bankruptcy to avoid paying off over $300,000 in debts.
But I told myself, Mike, when I'd lost it, that if I ever got it back again, I'd never lose it again.
Yeah.
I would take care of my money, that I would live more responsibly because I missed it. But inside of me, and this I owe to Brooklyn, I think, was a comeuppance. I was down, but I knew I'd come back.
And now that he's back, he says he's determined to pay back every cent he owes.
I agree with you.
Women. Women and Larry King. What a saga. Why are you looking so serious?
Because it's an area of my life I haven't done well with. I've done...
You've been married how many times?
5.
Some say there were 2 more he doesn't talk about.
And it's been, as Betty Davis said to me, you know, Larry, that camera's a mistress, and nobody can compete with that.
So your wife or your love is an intruder?
Is an aside. You know, I used to say, if I came home and I had 2 messages, your wife called urgent, CNN called urgent, I'd call CNN.
No contest.
No contest. We are Americans first and broadcasters second. No way. Come on.
Here he is at a broadcasters convention.
We are broadcasters first and everything else is second. Family values is 6th. This is broadcasting.
He says the best advice he ever got came from Jackie Gleason. Take off your jacket and be yourself. When he did that in the White House, some critics called him rude, but his shirt sleeves and suspenders play well in Middle America.
Thank you. A Jew comes to Wichita. Thank you.
So what makes Larry run?
Before my heart attack, I wouldn't have thought of doing this in 8 million years.
He had a heart attack and bypass surgery in 1987. Now, every morning at 9, he exercises. He scans 5 newspapers. He works the phones.
Hi, it's Larry King. I think we spoke yesterday. I spoke to Al Gore yesterday afternoon, just as he was getting on the plane, and then he got...
He writes his column for USA Today. Item: who has more guaranteed job opportunity, Dan Quayle or Murphy Brown?
My creature comforts are having the hair done every day, first-class travel, and a limo on the road. See, I think with television, if we'd have had what we have now, Hitler wouldn't have moved. He'd have been on with us. Good evening, Adolf.
Well, laddie, as I told off you as last week, Poland invited us in.
No, it takes care of me every day. Watches every night, judges my hair growth.
What a way to make a living.
I have to like what I'm doing, and I love what I'm doing. The biggest truth is I wouldn't change places with anyone.
And at the end of the day, 5 nights a week, a labor of love. 3 hours on Mutual Radio.
Here's Larry.
Thanks, Paul. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to another edition of the Larry King Show for this Tuesday night, Wednesday morning.
Why do you do this? Why do you work so hard? I mean, you do the thing from 9 to 10 on CNN, then you come over here, takes you 10 minutes to drive, and you're here now until 2 o'clock in the morning. You go home and go to sleep when?
I'm in bed by... I fall asleep 2:45.
Column in USA Today.
Why?
Why? For a fellow who had a heart attack.
I'm going to think about that.
Who's 58 years old.
I think I'm going to quit where I'm at.
But he won't quit, because from 1 to 2 in the morning on his radio show, this savvy, streetwise Democrat gets to tell you what he really thinks.
Clinton wants to low-key him. It's the same as Bush wants to low-key Buchanan. You want Pat Buchanan speaking in Harlem? The rich get a better break in America by far. It's a wonderful scapegoat. If you don't have an answer, blame the media.
When you go to bed at night, alone, what do you worry about?
The only thing I worry about is dying. I don't have any financial problems. I don't have any great emotion.
Dying?
Dying.
What do you worry about? You're a boy.
Oh, boy. This universe has been around a long time, and it's going to be around a long time. And I'm here for a blip of it.
Right.
And I want to see it all.
And this year, he has.
George Bush, Ross Perot, who's become a part of my life. I'm a little Jewish boy from Brooklyn. Suddenly a Texas billionaire is overwhelming me. I don't know what I'm doing. Ross called me this morning. He says, where are you going? I said, Port Huron. He says, I'll buy it today.
Wel, het was John Barrymore wat 'n autobiografie geskryf het en dit genoem het It Sure Beats Working. Donderdag is die 5de November, dis Guy Fawkes Dag en is nie iets waarna die dierewêreld vreeslik uitsien nie. As jy huisdiere het, hou hulle tog maar binne.